Hey everyone, Cahlen here, and in this video I'm going to talk about my sleep system for sleeping outside. Basically, I've been sleeping outside for approaching 2 years now. I've gone through 2 whole winters. Both of those winters went down to about -10 Fahrenheit. Only once, I think, each winter, but it does sometimes get that cold here. And I'm going to show you, I've been doing lots of experimentation on how to minimize my sleep gear, so minimize the amount of stuff I need to carry, because your sleeping gear generally makes up a large percentage of the weight of your backpack. So basically, I've been working on minimizing it, and this is kind of the most minimal that I've come up with. Now, I don't think that this will take me to -10 Fahrenheit. I haven't got the opportunity to test this, but it'll at least get me down into probably around 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, kind of the normal cold temperature at night in the middle of the winter. So basically everything that you see here, I guess you probably can't see everything, but this is basically everything that I'm carrying with me, all kind of set up, and most of it as part of my sleep system. Okay, so first, well, I guess this isn't part of the sleep system, but I keep my shoes nearby, and inside my shoes are my glasses, right? Always having your glasses somewhere, if you wear glasses, where you know where they're going to be. So if you wake up and you need to be able to see what's going on, you know exactly where they are, right? And also you're not going to roll over on them and break them or anything like that. And then right next to them in the other shoe, I also keep my headlamp, right? Because if it's dark and something's going on, you're going to need to also turn on a light, okay? And then next to me, I have my wizard staff, right? So that I can grab and start whacking coyotes or something if they get rowdy. And up here, you can see this is my pillow, but this is actually the top pouch of my backpack, right? And so inside this, I have some of my extra soft things, right? So I have an extra pair of underwear, I have a pair of waterproof socks, and I'm forgetting, there's a couple other things in here, but basically there's some soft stuff in here, right? And then also, part of your sleeping system is what you're wearing, okay? So I am wearing all of my clothes, which is multiple layers. So there's a wool layer, there's a waffle layer, there's the normal clothes or fleece layer, and then there's the rain layer, which is actually pretty important because it helps keep the warm air inside. And then also wearing gloves, and I have a 2-layered glove system, so the wool and then the outer one. And I generally don't wear these. I like to have my hands free because, well, I'll talk about, you kind of need to adjust stuff and you need to be able to feel it with your bare hands. But if it gets cold enough, you're going to want to put gloves on. And then my feet also I got 2 pairs of wool socks and these puffy, I don't know what you call these, basically puffy socks. They're kind of like puffy socks. It's got down in them, right? So, okay, so I'm gonna zoom out here. I'm gonna get out of bed and take a different camera angle and show you some stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna pull off basically the covers, and we'll look at this afterwards. But I'm gonna show you what I'm sleeping on. And you can see down here at my feet, this is my backpack, and it has a pack cover on it. So the backpack still has some stuff in it, basically my food and my water, a little bit to give it a little bit of bulk so that it's not flat against the ground. And then the pack cover is just, if in case it was raining, I'll keep this stuff from getting wet, right? And then up here is basically a thermarest, which I have cut in half. So normally it's about twice this length. And I have this is all season, basically permanent Gorilla Tape. And inside of it, I have taped basically a layer of aluminum reflective type material. So Mylar, that type of stuff. So basically, this works super well. If this was just a thermarest without the aluminum reflectives, I would be freaking cold in the middle of the winter. But with that, I basically have slept on this down to -10 degrees Fahrenheit. So just adding that makes a really big difference. And then we got the pillow up there. Okay, so now I've broken out the kind of bedding, the covers, into 3 different sections. This is the Swagman's roll. This is basically a summer sleeping bag, but you can also unzip it and it becomes a winter coat as well. You could also use it as a blanket. So this is the inner part. So basically I'm going to put this on first. I'm going to slide into this, and then I'm going to pull up this 0-degree camping quilt over the top of it. And this thing's really great, really lightweight. It's almost 2 pounds lighter than my 0-degree sleeping bag. Sleeping bags do have a benefit of the back is sealed, and so you don't lose heat if you roll over and lift aside. That's kind of a downside of a quilt. A quilt basically does not have a backside, right? So you save a lot of weight. And this works really well, especially if you have an inflatable sleeping pad. It doesn't work so well with what I got over there. I have to be really careful about how I move around and keeping these. If I roll over onto my side, I have to make sure that each of these sides doesn't get lifted up, right? Which happens pretty easily. So that's why I want my hands bare, so I can feel where this is and pull it down so that it reaches the ground on both sides. And then it's got a pretty big foot box, which is nice. So, and then last I will pull up this bivy sack. This is the Snug Pack Special Forces bivy sack. It's really nice, really lightweight. I've been using it for at least half a year, maybe even a year at this point, and it's only got one hole in it. It's constantly on the ground and getting pressure put on it, so it seems to be pretty durable, and it's pretty easy to fix the holes if you have the repair tape, which is in my gear kit. So basically next I'm going to show you how I pack my bag with this stuff. Okay, so I've emptied out my backpack now of everything else that was in here, because I'm going to want my sleeping gear down at the bottom, because that's the last thing that I'm going to access. I'm going to want to access my food and water throughout the day, so I want it up at the top of the bag. So basically first I'm going to put the winter sleeping bag, because depending on the season I may not even use this, right? During the summer this is just going to stay at the bottom of my bag. So keep this at the bottom, and I go with the strategy of basically I don't have any containers for this stuff, because that adds extra weight and also adds extra work that I have to do to be able to stuff it into a bag and then put it in the backpack. If you don't have too much stuff, you can just get away with just stuffing everything down. Okay, then the baby sack, that's another one of the last things that I'll need, but even in the summer I would probably use that with this, so it's not going to be at the very bottom. And then this will be up above, because I'm going to use this basically every single night, and also if it gets cold I'm going to want to pull this out to use it as a coat. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, so actually this thing well, it depends on what your backpack is like, but basically you're going to want to roll it up, and this may be what I should have done first to make it easier. See how small this thing gets? Super lightweight. And I have this little thing here, mesh, where I can just slide something down, right? And you can see it's a little bit hard to slide down in here right now because the pack is full. So if I do that before I start putting stuff in, it's probably optimal, okay? Now that's basically all my sleep gear. There's also my poncho, which is a raincoat, and also my shelter, but if I know it's not going to rain, I don't even use it, right? So basically I'll be stuffing that down in there and all the other stuff. But once that's all done, then the pillow, which contains all my extra clothes, just attaches right to the top of this thing. So this takes me down to about mid-20s to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. If it were to get colder than that, then it's probably going to be too cold to survive, or at least, be able to sleep, because when it gets too cold, you're not going to be able to sleep anymore. And if you wake up and stay in your sleeping bag, you're going to be warm enough just because now you're awake, you're generating more heat, but you're not going to be able to actually go to sleep because your body temperature is going to drop too much to keep you asleep. So I do recommend, if you're not used to sleeping in the cold, or if you're going to be sleeping colder than 20 degrees Fahrenheit, that you do get an actual 0-degree sleeping bag, so that you can, you know, stay fairly warm and not have to worry about moving around, basically giving off a whole bunch of warm air which you've been storing up, right? So it's not ideal to be using a quilt, and I'd prefer to be using the sleeping bag, but I save about 2 pounds, which is a lot, by using the quilt. So I've decided to just cope and learn how to use the quilt and be careful while I'm sleeping and changing positions so that I'm not giving up that body weight. So basically, if you take off the belt has a bunch of heavy things on it, like my revolver and my avocado oil and all these types of things, which probably add 5 to 10 more pounds. But if you remove the belt, the backpack with all of my stuff in it, ignoring the food and the water, is probably around 10 pounds, right? And so that's basically still within, I think below 10 pounds is considered ultralight in the backpacking community. And if you're living outside and moving around a lot, then you're going to want something that's ultralight, because it's going to get annoying. The most annoying thing about backpacking and camping is having to carry a really heavy pack, you know, and some people go up into the 30s, sometimes even 40 pounds in a backpack. And, you know, after you've been living outside for a long period of time, you realize you don't need most of that stuff. So anyways, that's my sleep system. I'll be doing a video pretty soon, basically talking about, I've recently changed to just using the quilt instead of the sleeping bag. So that's one example of me, this big step I'm taking towards really minimalizing what I'm carrying. But there's a bunch of other stuff which I'm no longer carrying as well, and so I'll go into that in a future video, probably within a few days here. So basically, you can check out my website, cahlen.org/gear. It's got all of the gear that I've been using basically this year, or at least up to the last couple of days, and then that's going to get updated pretty soon to remove a bunch of that stuff. So if you want to see what that stuff is before I remove it, you should check it out now, right? And if you're new to this, that stuff that I'm going to removing may still be stuff that you're going to want, right? You may want to go for a heavier pack with more gear in it when you're just getting started with this. So anyways, that's my minimalist sleep system. Hope that's useful, and I'll check in with you guys later.